So, you probably know the myth of Hercules and his tragic love for the young squire Hylas. But what if I told you the story we've all heard is, well, incomplete? It's missing a crucial character. And when you put him back into the picture, the whole thing gets way more complex and honestly, a lot more interesting.
Here they are, our three key players. You definitely know the first name. You probably know the second. But it's that third one, Polyphemus, who completely changes everything we thought we knew about this ancient story.
Because when you really start digging into the ancient texts, this kind of provocative question pops up. Was this less of a simple, tragic romance and more of a deeply interconnected web of desire and devotion between all three men?
To really unravel this whole mystery, we've got to start with the version of the story that everybody knows, because only then can we start to see where the cracks in that foundation really are.
All right, so the story usually starts with Hercules, the greatest hero of them all. He takes the young Hylas under his wing after, killing the boy's father in battle. Awkward. Hylas becomes his mentee, his trainee, and his lover, and Hercules teaches him everything he needs to know to become a warrior. It's a pretty classic setup for ancient Greece.
And this wasn't weird back then. Their bond fits into a very specific cultural pattern called the Erastus/Eromenos relationship. Ancient poets like Theocritus even talked about Hercules' love for curly-haired Hylas in exactly these terms. Kind of like a father figure teaching his beloved how to be a hero just like him.
This whole relationship builds to its tragic peak when Hercules and Hylas sign up for one of the biggest adventures in mythology, the quest for the Golden Fleece on the legendary ship, the Argo.
So here's how it all goes down. The ship stops in a place called Mysia, and Hylas gets sent ashore to find some fresh water. But when he gets to this spring, the local water nymphs, the naiads, see him and are just completely mesmerized by how beautiful he is. So they pull him down into the water with them and poof, he's gone.
Hercules is absolutely destroyed by this. His grief is so powerful, so totally all-consuming, that he just abandons one of the greatest quests ever, all to run around the woods screaming Hylas' name. The other heroes on the Argo, they can't wait forever, so they just sail on, leaving the world's greatest hero behind. And that right there is usually where the story ends. But the ancient texts, they ask a really fascinating question. Was he really the only one out there in a total panic? Because you see, there was another hero on that shore, a fellow Argonaut who often gets written out of the modern retellings, but whose presence just changes the entire dynamic of this tragedy. Okay, let's be super clear here for a second. When we say Polyphemus, we are not talking about the famous one-eyed Cyclops from Homer's Odyssey. Nope. This is Polyphemus the Argonaut, a respected hero in his own right and a companion of Hercules. Two totally different guys. Now get this, according to the original myth, as Hylas was being pulled into the water, he cried out, and Polyphemus was the only person who heard it. He thought the boy was getting jumped by bandits, so he drew his sword and ran toward the sound, but found nothing. So he immediately rushes to find Hercules to tell him the boy is missing. So Polyphemus is the one who sounds the alarm, but its connection to Hylas and to Hercules goes so much deeper than just being a worried shipmate. And this is where the story gets really complicated. Okay, so let's start with twist number one. While most versions of the story name Hercules as Hylas' lover, some ancient sources, like the poet Euphorion, completely flip the script. They claim that Hylas was actually the beloved of Polyphemus. This isn't just some small detail. It introduces a potential rival right into the heart of the story.
And the web just gets more tangled from there. Other ancient accounts suggest that Polyphemus himself was one of Hercules' own lovers. And on top of that, they were also brothers-in-law, since Polyphemus was married to Hercules' half-sister. Just think about that for a second. They weren't just comrades, they were family and, in some tellings, partners.
Okay, let's just pause and map this whole thing out. As you can see, you've got the most famous pairing, Hercules and Hylas. But then, you've got this alternative tradition where Hylas is actually the beloved of Polyphemus. And then, there's this third connection linking Hercules and Polyphemus directly, as lovers and as family. It's not a straight line. It's this complex web of romance and family ties.
And this emotional web, it had real, lasting consequences. The shared loss of Hylas didn't just end a quest for them, it literally shaped the history and culture of the entire region where he vanished.
Just think about the ripple effects here. First, it's not one but two great heroes who get left behind by the Argo, all because of their shared obsession with finding Hylas. Second, while Hercules eventually moves on, Polyphemus stays there. He founds the city of Creus and literally spends the rest of his life searching for the boy.
And third, this search becomes a real-world ritual that the people of Creus did every year. They'd reenact the desperate search, shouting Hylas' name.
So why is Polyphemus so important to this story? Well, in literary terms, he's like a double for Hercules. By showing not one but two godlike warriors completely falling apart over the loss of one boy, the myth highlights a side of Hercules we don't often see. Not the invincible strongman, but the vulnerable, frantic lover.
There's this one analogy from the source material that just perfectly captures the whole dynamic. Imagine their relationship is 3 strands of a rope, pulled tight. When the shortest strand, Hylas, is snapped away, that tension causes the other 2 strands, Hercules and Polyphemus, to completely unravel from the main mission, binding them together in a shared legacy of loss instead.
So, in the end, the story of Hercules and Hylas isn't really a story about a duo, is it? It's a triad, a complex emotional structure that totally changes how we should read the myth. And it leaves you with a really fascinating question. How many other stories that we think we know are hiding complexities just like this one, waiting to be unraveled?